Past legacies.
In the year 410 AD, the unthinkable occurred. For the first time in 8 centuries, a foreign army breached the walls of the Eternal City. The physical collapse of the state concluded over a millennium later, when its final stronghold, Constantinople, was erased from the map in 1453. Yet the language of that collapsed state still dictates how billions of people communicate. The precise geometry of these carved Latin letters remains the foundation of Spanish, French, Italian, and the script on your digital keyboard. The physical circulatory system of the ancient world, its thousands of miles of stone roads, served as the direct blueprint for the modern highway and interstate networks we use every day. Understanding Rome's persistence requires looking past the death of its borders. The focus shifts to the empire of ideas, the legal codes and architectural formulas designed with enough mathematical precision to survive the destruction of the buildings themselves. The fall of Rome's stone walls marked a transition from a physical state to a persistent, invisible operating system for modern civilization. The Roman system was forged by political trauma. Early citizens harbored an intense hostility towards kings, leading them to invent the Republic as a safeguard against individual absolute rule. They branded it SPQR. Power was extracted from a single monarch and redistributed among a senate, creating a wider council of representatives to debate and pass laws. This design contained a built-in vulnerability. It functioned as an oligarchic machine for the wealthy to consolidate their own assets, leaving the state exposed to populist military leaders promising the masses what the Senate refused to provide. In 49 BC, Julius Caesar exploited this weakness. Faced with losing his standing or turning his army against the state, he marched his legions through the shallow waters of the Rubicon. Caesar's ambition physically dismantled the Republic and led to his assassination. But the conceptual blueprint, the Senate, civic duty, and the distribution of power survived the chaos to inform modern democratic structures. Following the civil wars, Octavian, Augustus, established the Pax Romana. He secured absolute power while maintaining the appearance of a functioning republic, adopting the modest title of first citizen. Augustus projected this new legal order across his territories using architecture as a psychological tool. The intimidating scale of the columns in the Roman Forum was intended to make the individual feel small while making the state appear eternal. These massive public works served 2 functions. They brought engineering efficiency to the citizens, and they provided the violent spectacles of the Colosseum to remind conquered people of the state's capacity for organized force.
You don't just want to know what happened, you want to understand exactly why our world is the way it is today. To help us keep uncovering these deep historical dives, please leave a like and subscribe to Past Legacies. It's not just about looking back at the past, it's about discovering the very foundations of our future. Past Legacies. Unearth the truth.
Roman engineers mastered concrete and geometry to create spaces that have lasted 2,000 years. The interior of the Pantheon uses a precise central oculus to distribute weight, creating a self-supporting dome that still stands intact today. This specific visual language of authority was adopted by modern governments. Today's capitals and supreme courts use these same neoclassical domes and columns to borrow Rome's image of stability. Augustus used these structures as a specialized physical technology, ensuring that the sheer scale of the state remained etched into the minds of its subjects. The logistics of defending a landmass this wide eventually broke the state's capacity. At the edges of the empire, like the stone barrier of Hadrian's Wall in Britannia, the legions stood at the absolute limit of what a single government could supply. This strain triggered the crisis of the 3rd century. A severe combination of global pandemics and economic collapse led to dozens of emperors being murdered by their own guards in a few short decades, nearly fracturing the state into pieces. Governing this territory from a single city in Italy became impossible. The administration responded by splitting the entire map down the middle. Emperor Constantine then introduced a radical ideological shift. He adopted Christianity, using it to enforce a single, unifying faith across all citizens as a way to bind the fracturing population. Constantine followed this by moving the capital away from the vulnerable West, establishing a new Rome in the east at Constantinople. By shifting its center of gravity to the east and adopting a universal religion, the Roman state successfully backed up its ideological data just before the Western territory was overrun. While Western Europe fragmented into localized kingdoms, the Eastern Roman Empire maintained the centralized wealth and infrastructure of the ancient world for another 1,000 years. These people did not call themselves Byzantines, they called themselves Romaioi, Romans. Within the golden walls of the Hagia Sophia, they spent 10 centuries protecting the core of Roman law and art. Scribes in Constantinople meticulously recopied Greek philosophy and updated massive legal codes like the Corpus Juris Civilis, preserving the blueprints of civilization, while the rest of Europe lost the ability to read them. When the city finally fell in 1453, the flight of these scholars to the west carried these manuscripts back to Italy, providing the primary source material that sparked the Renaissance. Evidence of this knowledge transfer is present today in the Roman languages we speak, the interstate highways we navigate, and civic rights in modern courtrooms. The legend of Romulus and Remus provides a poetic origin, but the empire's actual survival is a matter of administrative engineering. Modern life functions within the final, indestructible iteration of the Roman system, where the strength of its ideas has outlasted its original stone.